owner. So let's now understand the basic starting circuit. So this is the simple basic starting circuit, and you have a hydraulic oil reservoir or a tank, a small tank, which is filled up with the hydraulic oil. You can see the level gauge and the filling cap, and through a filter we have the hand pump, which is usually a reciprocating pump with the valves here. And as I pump it up, stroke it up like this, it takes suction and then discharges it. As the high pressure oil from the reciprocating pump passes to the accumulator, as the word indicates, the accumulator is one which stores the energy. So now I pump up high pressure oil from the reciprocating pump to the accumulator, and this valve, the release mechanism valve, is closed, so the oil cannot escape to the hydraulic motor. So it raises up the piston against the spring force, and thus the pressure energy is stored in the form of spring force. So the piston gets lifted up to a certain height, which is based on the design, and we have a pressure gauge here. So the manufacturer would have stated the green range, the starting range for the hydraulic motor. Let's say 200 to 300 bar of hydraulic oil pressure. Once it reaches 200 or 250 bar, we can stop pumping and then open this valve or release this mechanism, which means this operates a control valve which supplies this high pressure oil from the accumulator to the hydraulic motor. And this hydraulic motor, as we earlier saw, like an air motor, has a piston and a vane arrangement, and this piston is basically for pushing the pinion and engaging with the flywheel, and the vane for rotating the pinion. Thus the flywheel is getting rotated. And after doing the work, that is after rotating the vanes, the hydraulic oil goes out through the return line, through a filter, back to the reservoir. Hydraulic oil pressure drops down, let's say 100 bar or 50 bar. The pressure is insufficient to keep the piston engaged or the pinion engaged with the flywheel. Thus it retracts back, and then the pinion is disengaged from the flywheel. The engine by this time the engine must have picked speed, and it must have started on the fuel. If it doesn't start, you got to close this valve again and then start pumping again. Thus the pressure is built up. Again you can admit second attempt. So the regulation states that the secondary means of starting should be able to provide 3 starts within 30 minutes. So let's now see the other part of this hydraulic system. So here is the accumulator. As the oil is getting pumped, since this control valve is closed, I just indicated in a simple way by cross mark, which is indicating the valve is closed. So as the oil is pumped under pressure, it pushes up the piston against the spring force, so the oil is getting pressurized and it is charged. The accumulator is charged now. And as I open the control valve, I indicate this with a minus sign, which means the valve is open. The spring force and the oil under pressure is completely exerted, and then it goes to the hydraulic motor, rotating it, and then the engine is getting started. So after rotating it, it comes back to the reservoir through the return filter. So that's it about the hydraulic starting, and this is a 3D view which I have taken from the internet. So here is the reservoir with the hydraulic oil in it, and this is the filling cap, and this is the low pressure line to the pump. This is the reciprocating pump, and you can monitor the pressure with the help of pressure gauge. And the suction of the pump has a filter, and the high pressure line is here, which is going to the accumulator. So for your information, the accumulator can be either spring loaded piston or gas charged. You know, some gases like nitrogen can be used in some types of accumulator, and the high pressure oil waits near the control valve for activation. Once this valve is activated, the high pressure oil goes to the piston and engages the pinion with the flywheel, rotates the vanes in the hydraulic motor, and then the exhaust hydraulic oil comes back to the reservoir. This is the simple hydraulic